What aspect of the work are you most running from, and what would it take for you to confront it? Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 4 of the Prolific Shift Sunday Sit Down. I'm Janae Peters. I'm founder, CEO, really the person doing all the things right now for Prolific Shifts, and really just kind of getting a catalog going right now with some questions and offerings to the world as one segment of Prolific Shifts. As a reminder, the most important segment is the one that focuses on Black educators and Black leaders and that becoming whole, that integration of professional and personal development. So, this week's question is a really interesting one to me. A couple weeks ago, we got into sort of what goes into our decision making. A couple weeks ago, it was a lot about manipulation. And then last week, we thought a bit about decision making and different components of that. And this week, I was just tempted to say a sort of hard turn, and I don't know that that's fully accurate, but we'll go there. The hard turn is thinking reflectively about the work, and particularly what most scares us about the work and what it takes to confront ourselves, what it might take to confront ourselves. Because a lot of this is about learning. It's not about knowing, it is about becoming aware. But ultimately, like, this is about learning and learning about ourselves in relationship to others. So this one is really interesting to me today. So I'm excited to get into it. I've been thinking a lot over the past few years, and maybe specifically this past year, about the ways in which I'm excited about how the world is talking about boundaries, how the world is talking about healthy relationships, how the world is talking about collective and community care, how the world is talking about our needs and self-awareness and in the spirit of engaging in community care even. And one of the things that I've been trying to wrap my head around is this idea, or what I'm seeing from some folks, which actually feels like, or I'm not even going to say what I'm seeing from some folks, the ways in which I find myself, how easy it is to go towards escape as opposed to confronting what might be real about ourselves, right? So to move to that person did this to me, or that person gets on my nerves, and so I'm going to be solo dolo by myself. If you know me, you know that that's not something I believe, but it's very easy to just say, well, forget this. I'm just going to do me and be on my own because nobody's there for me. Nobody supports me. Everything is da 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 da. And sometimes I really think that that's just us running. It's just us running. And I'm trying to figure out what that means for me, what that might mean for collective work, for collective liberation. And so I wanted to offer that today as just something for, to me, when I think about the work and what that means for us. Like, we live in a world, especially if you are, you know what, I'm not going to say especially, depending on your positionality, your sociocultural locations, the world has impacted us a little differently. And when we think about the fact that there are things that happen, and then there are our responses and reactions, or the ways in which we have responded to that world, that might not always be supportive. Like, it's easy for it to be maladaptive and for it to be ultimately the system's fault, and yet who's living it, like who's impacted by it. I want to be clear that context is very important. So I'm not taking away context in any of this. And context is important, kind of full stop. But I want to challenge us and say that reflection should consider different contexts and perspectives. Like, anything that's singular minded, so singular minded reflection, for example, like that alone won't attend to community. So we can create our narratives that say, people have done me wrong, or this person hasn't reached out to me, this person doesn't check on me. And that is one way of seeing it. But until we open ourselves into the practice of saying, I wonder what might be contributing to that person not checking in with me, I wonder what might be going on, then we're still kind of locked into that singular minded aspect of things. Part of what that makes me wonder is, like, are there people that we haven't been fair to because of our own fears? So, for example, if you have a fear and insecurity around being alone, around having to do things for yourselves, around not having had support, or having lived a tough life, or having had many challenges, are there people who you've kind of written off just because of your own stuff? And that's not to say that that is not fine. Like, we create the conditions that we create, but how much do we think about how fair we're being to other people, and how deliberate or intentional are we with checking in ourselves to find out, what is it about? Is this about my insecurity, or is it actually about what the person has done or hasn't done? Is there something that I could learn about the person's conditions that might change the way I feel about it? Or is this just like, is this what's coming from me, and like it won't be healthy actually because of me, not even because of the other person? So that, to me, I talked about manipulation. People didn't seem to like that one, but I'm going to get back to that someday soon. But it actually makes me think about how jealousy and envy feature in some of our decisions about the company we keep, either who we choose to feel comfortable around, who we choose to not feel comfortable around, and why, and what that reveals to us about ourselves. As I reflect on this, part of what I'm thinking about, is the answer for me to the question: is there a line, or is there a difference between evolution, or ways in which I've grown, decisions that I've made that are in support of growth and development and community, and escape, right? Or like confronting some of my darker parts, the things that are hard, because I think there's a lot of value to exploring our depths, and we don't like it there, I think, on the whole. And people who do like it there, I think, are looked at in an interesting way in this society. But we don't like to stay in that place with our darkness. But I think, in terms of self exploration, if we don't go there, then we'll never really know the difference between, like, how, like, what's others and what's ours. Like, I'm always thinking about, where's my responsibility in any interpersonal interaction, for good or for ill? What are the things that I did that made that really work? What are the things that I did that contributed to that friendship ending, to that relationship ending, to that student not being able to learn from me, whatever it is. And so one of the questions I'm really thinking about is, like, how does your story change, or how might your story that you're telling yourself change, if it's only about your behavior? Like, if you honor other people doing things, but take that a little bit out of the equation to say, what about how I'm acting and why I'm acting this way? Like, how much does that change the story we tell ourselves? So, this week's action item is to reflect on your past few years of relationships and examine the story that you're telling yourself, and expand that story to include other perspectives and possibilities. So, think about what you can learn about yourself that's not about other people's actions, but about your own. And the spirit of this is to really be imagining how collective care, responsibility, and accountability feature in the work that you have to do for yourself, in order to be in, not in order to be, but in order to contribute to liberation for all of your communities. So thank you so much for tuning into this. And if you're up for it, look forward to hearing about how your reflections are going. And I'm always happy to be in thought partnership with anyone. All right, y'all. Peace and take care.